Feel that tooth right now. Run your tongue across it. Maybe it's fine. Maybe there's a slight sensitivity you've been ignoring for weeks. Tonight, you'll probably take some ibuprofen, call a dentist, and be fixed within 48 hours. But for 99.9% of human history, a toothache wasn't an inconvenience. It was potentially fatal. Dental infections left untreated spread to the jaw, then the bloodstream, then the brain. A cavity wasn't something you scheduled around. It was something you prayed would kill you quickly. And yet, your ancestors didn't just endure the pain. They operated, they drilled, they filled. They performed dental surgery 14,000 years ago with nothing but sharpened stone, and the patient survived. And what they knew about the human body to pull that off should not have been possible for another 13,000 years. The answer is not what you think, and once you understand it, you will never look at a dentist chair the same way again. Let's start 14,000 years ago in what is now Tuscany, Italy. Archaeologists excavating a late Upper Paleolithic site uncovered a tooth from a young man. Under a microscope, the tooth showed something that stopped the research team cold. The inside of the cavity had been deliberately scraped clean. The marks were precise, organized, and consistent. Someone had taken a small flint tool and methodically removed the infected tissue from inside the tooth. Not randomly, not desperately, with a technique. Stefano Bonazzi, paleoanthropologist at the University of Bologna who led the study, described it as the oldest known intentional dental treatment on a diagnosed condition. They weren't just picking food from teeth. They were treating decay. They understood what a cavity was, what it was doing to the tooth, and how to slow it down. The patient would have been awake. There was no anesthesia. The pain must have been extraordinary. And they did it anyway, because they knew what happened if they didn't. But this wasn't an isolated case. It wasn't even the most impressive one. Go back further, 60,000 years ago in Chigirskia Cave in Siberia. Neanderthals, not Homo sapiens, but our closest extinct relatives, were practicing a more advanced form of the same procedure. In 2024, researchers examining a Neanderthal tooth from this site found a small hole, 4.2 millimeters long, 2.8 millimeters wide, drilled deliberately into the enamel. The drilling pattern could only have been produced by a rotating stone tool pressed and twisted in a specific motion. Experiments on modern teeth confirmed exactly which tools and which movements were required. Let that sink in. Neanderthals, 60,000 years ago, with no written knowledge, no schools, no accumulated medical tradition, were performing invasive dental procedures that match the basic mechanical principle of a modern drill. John Olson, professor of anthropology at the University of Arizona, reviewed the findings and told Live Science, "The roots of invasive medicine and surgery do not belong exclusively to Homo sapiens, but are part of a broader legacy shared with our closest relatives. We thought we invented surgery. We shared it with our cousins." Ancient dental medicine didn't stop at drilling. It evolved. Around 13,000 years ago, in what is now Tuscany, a different tooth showed evidence of something even more remarkable. The cavity had been cleaned out and then filled. The filling material was bitumen, a natural tar substance combined with plant fibers and hair, an actual composite filling, matching the structural principle of a modern dental composite, a matrix material binding the gap, adhering to the remaining tooth structure. The patient didn't just have their cavity drilled. They had it sealed. Someone made a clinical decision 13,000 years ago that this tooth was worth saving, and then engineered a solution to save it. Now consider what this required. First, a diagnosis, recognizing that the painful area of the tooth was the source of the problem. Second, a procedure plan, understanding that infected material needed to be removed first. Third, a material selection, knowing that bitumen had adhesive properties that would seal the cavity without causing further infection. Fourth, a post-operative understanding that the seal needed to hold and the tooth needed to be kept clean afterward. This is not primitive guesswork. This is clinical reasoning applied to a specific medical problem. And this raises a question nobody asks. Where did this knowledge come from? How did hunter-gatherers, living in small nomadic groups with no written records, develop and pass on a procedure-based understanding of dental medicine? The answer is almost certainly the night fire. Polly Wiesner's study showed that 81% of nighttime campfire conversation was stories, including stories of what worked and what didn't, how to treat a wound, how to manage the pain of an infected tooth. This medical knowledge didn't exist in books. It existed in human memory, passed orally from generation to generation, refined over thousands of years of trial and error.
They also had a pharmacopoeia. Willow bark, the natural source of salicylic acid, the active compound in aspirin. Poppy plants, the source of natural opiates. Studies on Neanderthal dental plaque have found residues of yarrow and other bitter medicinal plants, consumed not for nutrition, but for their pharmacological effects.
They had pain management. They tested it on themselves, and they recorded what worked in the only format available: memory and repetition. Go back to that tooth of yours, the one you might be ignoring right now. You live in an era of local anesthesia, sterile instruments, composite resins, and X-ray imaging. 14,000 years ago, a man sat still while someone scraped the inside of his infected tooth with a piece of flint. Awake, no numbing, no guarantee it would work. He did it because he understood, somehow, that the alternative was worse. The next time you sit in a dentist's chair, gripping the armrest, staring at the ceiling, remember that the procedure being done to you is not new. It's ancient. It's been refined over 60,000 years of painful, careful, memory-stored human learning. Your dentist didn't invent dental care. They inherited it from the most patient and pain-tolerant engineers who ever lived.